Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another Brilliant Metrics webinar. Today's topic is demand generation, and I'm going to outlay a foolproof plan for developing a demand generation program at your organization. But before we do that, I need to tease you guys a little bit. So, joke for you, SEO, a marketing director, an SEO specialist, and a salesperson walk into a bar. To get the punchline, you have to stick around till the end. All right, a little bit of housekeeping. This meeting is being recorded. If you're on the Zoom, you will get a copy of the recording. If you are on the live stream, you can still get a copy of the recording. There is a QR code that you can scan at the very end that will get you that copy. You'll also get a copy of the slides, so don't worry about taking screenshots as we go. A little bit about me. My name is Steve Robinson. I'm the founder and CEO here at Brilliant Metrics. In addition to my role here, I do a lot of speaking. I do a lot of teaching, and this is my happy place. So thank you for being a part of my opportunity to teach you a little thing today. Um, Brilliant Metrics, we are a B2B full service marketing agency. Our clients come to us because we help fill that gap, particularly the strategic gap for organizations that are looking for a marketing agency partner that not only is going to come in and help them execute, but more importantly, is going to be a partner in helping them define their strategy and how they're going to really move forward. We do that through 6 proven marketing methodologies. Demand generation is one of those. And so after this one brief pitch, and this is it, you'll get an opportunity to get a glimpse at some of how we would work on a demand generation program, as well as learn a whole bunch of strategy and tactics you can take back and run with it back at your desk. All right, today's agenda. The way that we look at demand generation is through the lens of the buyer. And so we'll talk a little bit about the buyer's journey and taking it from a one-dimensional model to a two-dimensional model. From there, we'll dig into how to meet those different states within that buyer's journey and then wrap things up with some actionable items for you to take back and run with, and obviously the punchline to the joke. All right, so when we talk about the buyer's journey at Brilliant Metrics, the way that we like to represent it is using a model called See, Think, Do. That came from a gentleman named Avinash Kaushik. And he was formerly with Google. He's now kind of an independent. And we like See, Think, Do because it's simple and it's from the eyes of the prospect, the eyes of the audience. In our mind, the very best the very best marketers leverage empathy to really see the world through the eyes of the prospect and understand where their head's at each stage in the buyer's journey. And so we like the See, Think, Do model because it represents it from that buyer's perspective, not from the brand. So let's dig into the model. A buyer jumps around among these 3 states, and there's 2 more that happen after purchase, but we're going to focus on these 3 right now. In C state, your buyer might see your brand, might see your product, might see your services, but they're largely going to filter it out because they don't perceive an opportunity or a problem that would necessitate them engaging. It's just not on their radar. Whatever it is you're selling is not anything that they think they're going to need anytime soon. When they enter think state, though, now they perceive a problem or an opportunity, generally in the future, that could involve what it is that you're selling. And so at this point, their filters start to come down and they start to be aware of some of the content that you're presenting, and you have an opportunity to break through. Now, they're not going to go down the path to purchase yet because they haven't made a commitment to themselves or anyone else within the organization to actually make a change. And the last state is do state. At this point, they have made that commitment. The project's a go. Their boss has told them this has got to happen, right? They are in an action state right now, and now they will take steps on the path to purchase. They will talk to a salesperson. They'll fill out a form. They will take a meeting, right? Because they have an actual, probably a deadline to get this project done that's going to require your product or service. So let's break this down in the context of two companies. I'm going to use Brilliant Metrics for one of them, and I'm going to use a fictitious client. I started doing this with a real client, and I realized I was edging in that area of probably giving away some proprietary information on the part of that client and their strategies. So kind of amalgamated several fictitious clients into one B2B equipment manufacturer. All right, so in the case of Brilliant Metrics, when somebody is in C state, they might see uh, they might see our brand, they might see our name, but they're not thinking they're going to change agencies or hire a new agency anytime soon. So anything that we talk about how we serve our clients and our special sauce and any of that kind of stuff is just going to go in one ear or out the other. And they're not even going to notice our brand unless there's some other good reason to do that. Next up is think state. So at this point, they have a problem or an opportunity that their current agency or their in-house team isn't ideal for, and well, another agency might be. So at this point, they're thinking about the problem. They're thinking about that opportunity, and their eyes are open to any content that's going to help them in that process. They've still not made a commitment to make a change. And then finally, do state they've made a commitment to their boss, the CEO or VP of sales and marketing or whoever, to bring in a new agency. They're ready to do something about it. And at this point, they've either decided who they're going to bring in already back in think state, or they have a short list and they just need to go through a vetting process. Let's look at a fictitious equipment manufacturing company. This would be an industrial equipment type of company. So their buyer, when they're in C state, might see Equipment Co. They might see their products, but all of that's going to be filtered out. Unless Equipment Co. comes to them with content that is relevant to their world in that moment, they've got no reason to pay attention. Let's say they enter think state, they have a problem or an opportunity that could result in adding one or more pieces of equipment. So uh, as the buyer, I'm thinking about it, but I haven't made a commitment to myself or anyone else inside the organization to actually purchase any equipment or specify any equipment in many cases. And then in due state, the project's a go. Now I have a commitment to the rest of the team, my boss, somebody else, to specify or purchase some equipment. I'm ready to do something about it. And I probably at this point know what piece of equipment I need to buy, but I might not know which manufacturer I want to buy it from. Okay, this is all well and good, and this is kind of useful as a marketer. It helps us really understand whether or not we need to be um, generating awareness with a particular audience or whether we need to be helping to frame the buying decision and educating a particular portion of the audience and then having some content that has some action or some path to purchase. But it doesn't really help us dig into generating demand. For that, we want to take think and do, and we want to expand them into multiple journey states. So let's break down think state. I want you to take a moment and jump inside your prospect's head. Your ideal customer, the person who is most likely to be the champion or the decision maker at that ideal customer. Jump inside their head for a moment. I want you to ask yourself two questions as that person. Be the prospect. One, what trigger has me thinking about making a change? There's probably multiple answers here. Chances are your buyer is going to continue to buy from the current source if it's something they're buying regularly, or is going to just continue doing their job, not thinking about your product or service if it's something they buy every great once in a while, until something triggers a change. What are those common triggers? The second thing to think about as your prospect, once that trigger happens, what is the problem or the fear or the negative consequence of not making a change? Or what is the opportunity? What am I excited about the prospect of a better future state if I do make a change? How do I label that? How do I define that in a way that that makes sense to me and would have me preoccupied as the prospect. All right, enough vague language. Let's dig into what this specifically looks like in the context of us, Brilliant Metrics, and then a fictitious manufacturing company out there. So for us, for Brilliant Metrics, one core trigger that causes someone to change agencies is when you have a new person coming in, they are hired to make a change. They need to make their mark, and the current agency or in-house team isn't instilling confidence. So I, as the buyer, I'm new here. I was hired to make a change and need to make my mark. The current agency isn't instilling confidence and has me thinking of making a change. Notice that as the buyer, I've not made any commitment to making that change. I'm still trying to figure out which way is up, and I've got some more groundwork and planning to do. But that seed has been planted at this point, and my eyes are open to what agencies that pop up that look like they're perfect for me and my organization. A second example, I might be in think state because we're launching a new product offering, and my job is on the line if it doesn't go smoothly. So I'm thinking that the current agency or in-house team just isn't up to that task. This is another common trigger that brings us new clients. A third example, the VP of sales and the president just pulled me aside and said sales is struggling. I get the impression they're about to make that my problem because there's not enough leads. I don't have a plan yet, and I'm thinking I need to bring in someone for help. This is a common scenario. So these are just three examples of different states of mind that our prospect would be in when they're in that think state. These are very different problems or opportunities with very different sets of considerations and very different levers that we can pull when we're marketing to these individuals. Let's look at it through Equipment Co. Okay, so I'm probably a process engineer or a design engineer at one of Equipment Co.'s customers. There are multiple inefficiencies and bottlenecks that are cutting into our profitability. I think my next big project is to replace one or more pieces of equipment to address the efficiency problem. The plant's not running smoothly. I want to fix that because it's my job to fix that. I know I'm going to have to replace a few pieces of equipment in order to be able to do that. Another thing that might cause me as that engineer to enter think state is R&D says they're close to perfecting the new product, and I think I'm about to be tasked with figuring out how to structure the line to make it next month. Again, I haven't made a commitment to actually structure that line and start designing that process because R&D is not done yet. So it's not go time. I can't go and start specifying the equipment that's going to make a product that isn't even finished yet. But I heard them talking and I know it's coming. And so now I'm preoccupied with this problem as I go about my day to day, which means my eyes are open to any particular content that might help me do that better when I get there. A third example, CEO says she's found funding to expand the plant. That means I'm about to be tasked with designing the expansion, and I should probably start thinking about that now. Now, CEO just said she's found the funding. There's no timeline associated with this. That could still fall through. Um, it's just a long-range plan at this point. I don't have to go yet, but again, as that process engineer, I'm going to be thinking about it now because it's on the horizon. We can do the same thing for due state, but at this point, again, your buyer has it's go time. They're making that actual specification, that purchase decision, and they've probably already done a bunch of thinking. They've read some stuff that has come across their radar. Um, they might have even done a little bit of research while they were in think state. So largely, they've got a good frame on what the problem or opportunity is and how they're going to go about solving it. That may even be a product or service of a competitor's or yours that they already have penciled in their head as where they're going to go. So at this point, I want you to jump inside your prospect's head and again, think about two questions. The first one is exactly what is the hole that your prospect is trying to plug? This could be the same hole across multiple of those think states that they were in earlier. This is literally what problem are they trying to solve with your solution, your product or your service. Equally important to understanding what that hole is how have they labeled it? This is a regular problem that we run across with, particularly with companies that have novel solutions. They're either creating a category or they have a product that is a new product to the market, and they're trying to market it to customers who have already labeled the solution that they're going to buy as the same type of thing or the same category as they bought last time. Um, so you really want to be careful and mindful of how has your prospect labeled the solution that they're going to buy. So let's go through this in an example of brilliant metrics again. I need to hire a full service agency to partner with to redesign and help implement our entire go-to-market strategy. Now, that could come out of the first think state where they are a new person's hired to make a change, or the third one where sales is struggling. Either one of those could lead to that conclusion. There's no linear path here from a given think state to a do state. Second one, I need to take a course, read a book, or attend a workshop to get in the mindset and pull together a plan. I need education, and I need more information. I need to be in the right environment to learn and grow as a marketer. Um, I'm too close to this. I need a contract with an agency or a consultant just to do an assessment and develop a plan. Just give me direction. Or I need to hire a digital agency to fix my marketing technology stack. I need the technical marketer, not necessarily strategic or whatever. Any of these are things that we do and can do to meet our clients' needs, but all of them represent a particular headspace, a particular need for our audience. And so we want to be mindful of how we cater to each one of these individual do states. Lumping everybody together who is just ready to buy doesn't help us. So looking at the whole journey, it looks like this. C state, there isn't more than one C state. They're not thinking about an agency at this point. Think state, we're looking at the individual problem or context, the opportunity that the individual is in. And do state, we're looking at what they want to buy and how they've labeled it, right? Let's go to Equipment Co. So Equipment Co, they make several different types of equipment. One of them is an extruder. What it's extruding, I don't know because it's a made-up company, but it's an extruder. And importantly, the buyer, the process engineer at this point, is thinking, I need to specify an extruder with a focus on speed and reliability. Okay. If Equipment Co. makes a piece of equipment that does extruding, but also does something else, they need to make sure that it's clear to the buyer that it is an extruder because that's what the buyer is thinking they need to buy. Words matter, labels matter. Also, if you notice, I need to specify an extruder with a focus on speed and reliability to handle a very high throughput situation. As the process engineer, I've added some constraints to this, right? I've added some additional sides to the box that I'm going to apply as I go to try and find exactly which manufacturer's extruder I'm going to buy. I need to specify an industrial oven capable of reaching 2000 degrees. Again, I've decided the label is industrial oven and I've added some constraints. I need to specify a shredder. And the last one constantly got jammed, so the new one needs to be able to handle our materials with ease. Again, I've labeled what it is I want to get as a shredder, and I have um, added a constraint that it needs to handle my particular materials. And then finally, I need to specify a dryer that can process 300 pieces per hour. So when you get to do state, we're looking at how has your market, how is your prospect labeled the solution that they want to buy. And what other benefits are they looking to get from that solution? What benefits are important to them? I'll give you a moment to look through the entire Equipment Co. buyer's journey here. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about how we address each one of these journey states to have a really effective demand gen program. We'll start with C state. The first thing in C state is to choose a position to own in the buyer's mind. You're going to be in front of these prospects, your target market on a regular basis. If you want to make an impression, if you want to own a piece of their mind, you need to make it very clear which piece of mind you're working to own. You need to stake a claim. That means that you're staking a claim for as the ideal provider, the obvious solution for them because you offer something unique that they're in a unique position to need. We do a great positioning exercise where we go back and forth among define your ideal customer and more importantly, who are you not ideal for? Okay. What is your unique position? What are your unique attributes of your brand personality, or the unique attributes of your products and services that make you the obvious solution for that ideal customer? Okay, now let's go back and look at that ideal customer. How is that customer ideal for those particular unique attributes? What makes them ideal? Can we dial that in a little bit more, or can we expand it a little bit more to really match those unique attributes of you in the marketplace? Okay, now let's go back to the position. Looking at that buyer, is there anything else about you that makes you perfect for that particular buyer? Great, let's add that to the position. We go back and forth a few times and really dial in why you're special and to whom that special attribute matters. Once you have that position, now you need to get it out there. And the way that we talk about getting it out there, at least cost effectively, especially layered on top of a demand gen program, is marketing to the filter. We all have a filter that keeps us sane. We process about 75 gigabytes of data every single day. And if we didn't have a filter, we'd go nuts trying to process all of that data. A lot of marketers focus on breaking through that filter, and they do that through really entertaining ads or shock value, or there's lots of tactics to do that, but it's expensive and you have to constantly change things out. So instead, we recommend to our clients figure out that brand position, state it succinctly, and then beat your audience over the head with it. They're going to get banner blindness. They're going to ignore those ads. They're going to ignore that logo and tagline, but the filter is going to process it. So when your product or service is relevant, the filter will A, let your messages through when they're in think and do state, and B, the filter may even surface your brand as a place to go. This is an example from one of our clients who happens to be on the call. Hi, Robin. Hatco Corporation, their market position is they make the most reliable equipment with the best customer service in their category. And so when your world relies on your equipment, Hatco's the obvious solution. Will this work for restaurants that um, always buy the cheapest, most budget stuff and just know they have to change it out on a regular basis? No, but that's not Hatco's market. That's not who they go after. They go after the food service operators and the restaurateurs who care about their equipment and want to, have a business model that relies on it. All right, think state. Once somebody enters think state, they have a problem or an opportunity, right? And I hope you took my exercise earlier seriously and actually stopped to think about what those problems and those opportunities might be. Now we need to nurture. And there are really two ways you can do that. One is to tell a good story. Human beings are hardwired for stories. It's what we naturally cling to. Um, and there are particular formats to those stories or frameworks that resonate especially well with us as humans. The frameworks don't get old. You can reuse them over and over and over again because that's how our brains are wired with a story. And it largely follows the hero's journey, although there's different flavors, story brands, story cycle, and other frameworks that take a twist on that hero's journey. Um, but your goal as a marketer for people who are in think state is to tell a relevant story where within the first 30 seconds, your audience can identify with the hero, which is your customer, your client, not you. They can identify with that hero because they have the same problem or opportunity that they do. Um, if you can get a story in front of your audience that within that first 5 seconds clearly articulates that the person talking is exactly where they are, they will watch. And I say watch because one of the unique attributes of demand generation that really separates it from lead generation is um, we're not trying to track every activity of every single person. So we can get this message out there using video, what we call on the edge, meaning we're not going to drive traffic back to our YouTube channel or back to our website to retarget and cookie and put a form in front of and all that stuff. We're going to push that video and that messaging right out to the where the person is, whether that's on social or over the top media running on their Roku at home, or however it is we're getting in front of them. We can package the whole story right there inside of the content itself. Because the goal is to get that engagement. We don't need to score the leads. We don't need to get them to sign up for the newsletter. We don't need any of the extra stuff that would necessitate gating this information. If you publish a case study that does a good job of telling the story, put the whole case study out there. Don't put it behind a form. If you're putting it behind a form, you're doing a lead generation strategy, which we talked about in an earlier webinar. If you're doing true demand generation, you're pushing the information out and making it as accessible as possible. Video is great for storytelling. It is worth the investment. It's not always cheap, but it's worth the investment. All right, so method one to nurturing individuals in think state is to tell a good story. Method two is to educate, specifically to frame that buying decision or frame that problem or opportunity. Your prospect, when they are in think state, is trying to get their head around exactly what they're up against or what they're going to shortly be up against. That's the biggest problem in their mind. So if you can dig into that problem or opportunity and help them understand it at a deeper level, the nuances to the problem or the opportunity that they're working to address, you can build trust. You can build authority because you're teaching them. You can position yourself, your brand, as solving the problem. If you are this intimately aware and understanding the problem, then you obviously know how to solve it. And you can tilt the table in your favor by highlighting the aspects of the problem or the opportunity that your audience might not be thinking of. But once they start thinking about those attributes of the problem or opportunity, your solution is the obvious one. Quick story here. There is a consultant in the professional services space who offered me a free book, and I'm not going to name names here. Um, and I, I said, great, yeah. And I read the synopsis of what the book was about all the problems I was having at that particular moment. I read the book. The book dug into the problems and challenges that I was facing at a level that gave me so much like faith that this consultant understood exactly what I needed, exactly the problem I was in, and told stories about other leaders in the same boat. Get to the end, and book doesn't say a word about how to solve any of these problems. So of course I engage with the salesperson with a consultant. And then turns out I'm not sure they know how to solve the problems. They just do a really good job of explaining them. So make sure that you're talking about problems that you can actually solve. In the end, I didn't engage with the consultant because I didn't get the confidence that they could solve the problems. But I spent a lot of time with them because they clearly articulated that they understood the problems I was facing and the opportunities I was approaching. All right, capturing due state. Once somebody enters due, they've probably already decided what they're buying and oftentimes from whom. Because if you're not building awareness in C state, your competitors are. If you're not clearly articulating your positioning as the ideal provider to them, your competitors are. If you're not telling good stories, if you're not educating the buyer while they're in think state, your competitors are. And so at this point, they've read that case study that nailed exactly the problem they're having and how to solve it from a competitor or from you. At this point, they have done their research and they at least understand what they're buying and have either a short list of vendors that they're going to buy it from or have identified what they're going to buy and they just need to go through the buying motions. That could include a competitor quote that they're going to do everything to make sure it goes nowhere. So the real movement happens earlier in the buyer's journey in the think state and see state. But let's talk about what we need to do as marketers to have an effective demand gen program for due state, because I've worked with clients and seen many times when this is neglected, thinking if they know who I am and they know we can solve their problem, they're going to come to us. And the answer is not always. So the first thing is they have to be aware that you offer the particular solution that they have in mind. Remember, in due state, they've labeled that solution. They've put that solution in a box. So your ad needs to, your ad, your content, your landing pages, your emails all need to clearly label your solution in the same terms that they understand. Well, what if what you're offering doesn't have an industry understood label? What if it's a new product category or a new solution? Tie it back to something that they do know. So, Circulant, a client of ours, offers websites for proxy season. They offer rapidly developed websites for mergers and acquisitions and crisis communications and all these kinds of things where you need to stand up a site like yesterday. That's their unique spin. Everybody knows what a website is, so they can tie that back, but they might not know what a crisis communication microsite is. So if they labeled it that, nobody's going to understand what it is. They have to label it exactly what it, in the terms that their audience understands. Um, Focus on the benefits. This is where you get into features and benefits. I would, focus on benefits first, features if your audience clearly understands how that feature ties back to a benefit, but don't ask them to make that leap. So this is an older client. They offered a particular piece of software that helped with better coding, better RAF scores, better reimbursement. Um, those benefits made sense to their audience, and those were areas that their audience was struggling, right? So focus on the benefits of the product or solution, not just the attributes of it. From there, it's important that you understand what are the first steps. So you're going to have ads and content and emails highlighting the individual products or solutions that you offer with labels that your audience understands and is what they're going to be seeking. But also, you need to give them an on-ramp. Give them a reason to reach out to you. This is especially important in late think, early due state, when if you give them an offer that has a little bit of a sweetener on it, a little bit of an incentive or some urgency on it, they may engage with you before they intended to engage with the broader audience. Most of the time, Their first step to purchase and your first step as the seller is FaceTime. And it doesn't matter what that FaceTime is in many cases. If you can get FaceTime where they're talking about their problem or their opportunity, that is uh, that is the beginning of that purchase process. Especially if you have consultative salespeople that are going to come in and help them explore that problem or opportunity and get them to the right solution. And so we're a firm believer in introducing time-boxed promotions to really cater to due state. So in this case, we're offering a meeting scheduled today. Um, when you schedule a demo with our client Ovention here, and we're time boxing it. We have a time frame by which they need to schedule that demo or meeting in order to get an additional incentive. If you have a series of two, three, four different promotions that you can rotate through, you can reuse them over time. You just update the dates, and it gets people to act when they otherwise might procrastinate, uh, which is just human nature. If possible, when you're thinking about what that promotion is, what that they get for acting now instead of waiting, try to use a bonus and not a discount. Anytime you discount in any context, you cheapen your brand and you open the door to the price being negotiable or made up, right? So you usually want to throw in a kicker, a bonus. And I've gotten flack from clients in the past about doesn't it just kind of cheapen the whole like schedule a meeting and get a free whatever? Doesn't it make it transactional, et cetera? And the answer is no. I also get flack for people from clients are if I put out a promotion like this, am I going to get a bunch of scammers that are just trying to take advantage of this? And the answer is no. You can very much so put some qualifiers on the landing page that says you must be such and such and such and such and such and such to qualify for this offer. And generally, your target audience isn't sitting around twiddling its thumbs thinking, "Oh, I think I will take that meeting and get the free Amazon card because I don't have anything better to do." Especially not these days when a lot of organizations are running really short-staffed in the interest of increasing profit and efficiency. So promotions work. They seem cheesy, but it's a great chance to capitalize on that due state and get those folks in the door and start that purchase process. Wrapping up, generating demand means meeting the buyer at their point in the journey. And simply lumping all of your consideration or think state people together and trying to meet all of them at once doesn't work. You need to break that down into multiple different points in the multiple different states of mind that somebody can be in when they're in think state, and multiple different states of mind based on the labels they put on the solution on where they might be in due state. Once you've done that, you can meet them where they're at with exactly the right content or offer to get them in the door, build trust, build authority, make your product or service the item that they are most interested in buying and get them moving. All right, I promised the punchline to the joke. So, a marketing director, an SEO specialist, and a salesperson walk into a bar. The marketing director launches into a story, forgetting to order a beer altogether. The SEO specialist orders a beer, beers, ale, brew, lager, suds, a cold pint. And the salesperson asks the bartender if they have beer, authority to serve beer, do they need to serve beer, and if they are planning to serve beer in the next 30 minutes. If you don't get the last one, ask your sales director about what BANT means. With that, I will open things up to questions. Please do post them to the chat. And it looks like you don't have any questions. Please do feel free to reply to the email that you'll get after the event here with the slides and some additional resources. and let me know if there is an opportunity for us to help you implement demand gen at your organization, and if you have any questions. With that, I hope everyone has a wonderful day.